Okay, so my 6 lessons learned from LinkedIn on building the Geospatial 2.0 community. You'll know if you follow me that I've been talking for some time now, actually a number of years, about Geospatial 2.0, this evolution, revolution within the geospatial world. We've got new sensors collecting data, we've got new platforms, we've got artificial intelligence and generative AI. We've got digital twins, and we've got this emerging world of immersive technology, virtual reality, and where I'm mostly interested is augmented reality. So that's the world. I'm building a community of folks that are interested in this evolving world. We're moving away from 2D mapping into this new world. So the community has the same purpose as me, which is to learn more about what's happening. So again, using the sort of Simon Sinek's idea, those of us who've got a shared why. So that's the purpose of this community building exercise. But I've been doing this almost exclusively in LinkedIn, and I've become quite data driven when it comes to working in LinkedIn. And I've found, like I've said, 6 really key things which I thought worth sharing with you. But before we jump in, let me just show you some charts here, just some of the performance things based on what we've been doing, or I've been doing within this. So let's just pull up the chart. So you'll see that our all-time high in terms of impressions of one post was 161,000. That was our biggest single post of all time. But we generally average, I generally will post at least 2 posts a day. We average about 36,000 impressions per week. And from that, the sign up to the newsletter, which is how I'm building community to sign up for our newsletter on all things Geospatial 2.0, we get about 40 sign-ups per week for that newsletter. So those are interesting stats, and we're seeing an increase in all of those numbers over time as we tune things a little bit better and bring more community people into the mix. But let's just break that down a little bit further. What type of content are we finding is the most successful in what we're publishing? Again, we publish a lot of different types of content, but there are really 4 main areas that we're most focused on. So looking at the pie chart, we see that talks are by far the most popular. So I do these type of talks. I try and make sure that they're short. Under 3 minutes is ideal. And I'll cover different topics within a Geospatial 2.0 community. So by far, those are they're the highest watched of everything that I do. The second highest are these sort of share animations, as I call them. So I'll often animate using generative AI, different images. I'll combine images and animate them. So I'll create a generative AI animation on, again, a certain theme within the Geospatial 2.0 world. And I'll also provide some explanation about what we're talking about. Quite often, this is sort of LiDAR, other technologies that I explain a little bit more depth. They're the second most interesting. Surprisingly, articles are interesting as well. If I take a certain theme and I dive deeper in an article, so people really like articles. So I'll do articles, and 14% or so of our sort of overall reach is articles. And then the last one, which quite a few people are still sort of focused on, is sharing videos, sort of videos that catch people's attention. And that's about 12%. In our case, it's not that particularly high, but I'll use a video that maybe I found, and maybe edit that video, give the creator credit for it, and then again some explanation there. So that's kind of our breakdown in terms of the types that work for us at the minute. So then, what are the most attractive titles for people? In other words, what are people really finding interesting in terms of the content that we're producing? I've just taken the top 5 over the last 6 months, and I'll put them on the screen right now. So let's take a quick look at those. As you can see, the first one in the list is a why. So it was very topical. It was when Bentley and Cesium merger happened, and I did a talk on that, and it was incredibly popular, that particular talk. It was a groundbreaking event, I believe, that one. The second one in the list was actually this type of a talk. It was really around how I've been using generative AI to help me build this community. So I did a short talk on that particular topic a couple of months ago. LiDAR is always an interesting topic. People find that fascinating. Quite a lot of our talks or quite a lot of our content on LiDAR have been interesting because that's really an evolving field driving us down to 3D. So that's third on the list. And then the Apple Vision Pro, which unfortunately is being discontinued. I've had a number of conversations around that. Again, very topical. It's around this whole notion of virtual reality, augmented reality, huge potential impact on the geospatial world. So that was one that I spoke about, and whether that was actually a missed opportunity or not, I didn't believe it was. And then the last one, which I've done more than once, is to talk about the sort of the evolution of GIS, the evolution of the GIS industry, the geospatial industry, and how I feel we're at a sort of a inflection points, some of the areas that we're now moving into, which is from niche to foundational, which was that particular topic that I spoke about there. So those are 5 key areas that sort of stood out in terms of our list of top performers. And this is again in terms of impressions. All right. So I've given you the background to all of this stuff. Let's go through the 6 lessons I've learned in LinkedIn. The first one is build community. I fear a lot of people are trying to sell on LinkedIn. Too often I see selling happening. Nobody cares for you to sell to them. This is about community. This is social media, this. So you need to start out with that shared purpose, that shared why. In my case, again, it's anyone that's interested in the evolution of Geospatial 2.0. Now, I do have a business which helps organizations take advantage of these 2.0 developments, which is more of a business-centric business. But again, fundamentally, I'm most interested in the evolution that's happening in the industry. So that's the first one, build community. The second one is track what you're doing, everything. I spoke about this in a video last week. I got very anal about tracking every piece of content that we put out there. I track the date, the day, the time, the title, the number of impressions, the number of opt-ins, i.e. people that sign up for the newsletter. I track everything and I look at that all the time, because how do I know what the community is interested in if I don't know what's the most popular posts are? We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but that's really critical. I think a lot of people just throw content out there, don't see it working, and then move away and stop doing it. So I think that that's really important. Type. I've just spoken about the kind of content that we've generated in the pie chart. A lot of people are talking about the importance of video, and there's no doubt that LinkedIn is changing. So videos are much more important. Short videos which are on point, they're on your topic of again, the community is interested in. So type is always important, and mix the type up. Again, we do probably 5 different types of content. And again, I shared 4 of those with you in the pie chart earlier. So mix it up, make video animation sort of a central piece of what you do. Okay, next on this, I'm looking at my list. You're really trying to build out a community. I think that that's key here. So it's not just about followers. I think a lot of people are focused on building their followers. They'll put sort of, and I do love the folks who are doing this. Don't get me wrong. People put out videos which are really sort of catch your eye and attention. Really cool videos, but there's no follow through on that. It's just building followers. In my case, I want to build a community. So sure, I'm trying to get interesting content out, but I also want people to sign up for the newsletter, because then we are building our own community outside of LinkedIn. We don't have to rely on LinkedIn for everything and finding these catchy videos. We're building our own community. So that's a big deal, I think. And it's a big deal to me. And I think it should be a big deal to you as well. I want to talk about the algorithm. I made the mistake in the past of just thinking about good content. That's still a primary thing to do, and mixing up that content, finding what your audience wants. But the algorithm is ultimately the thing that's going to decide. The LinkedIn algorithm is going to decide what content they're going to promote to your audience. So you need to get that mixture right of what the algorithm wants and what your viewers want, or readers or followers. The LinkedIn algorithms wants people to stick around on LinkedIn. That's its goal. Anything that's sticky, they want. So your post has got to be a sticky post to other people in the community on LinkedIn. That means it's interesting, but it also means the algorithm's looking for certain things within the post that it feels is going to be sticky. You need to do more research on that, on the algorithm. Generative AI is a great place to do that kind of research. This leads us on to the last point, the number 6 point. Lessons learned with generative AI. I think that I use it all the time. Generative AI is an absolutely sort of my sidekick when I do this stuff, but I'm very cautious about how I use it. I'll use it to analyze some of my stats. I'll use it to come up with ideas. I might feed it some articles and get it to come up with things that I think might be interesting based on like 4 or 5 articles. So I use it a lot for helping me with through content ideas, help me generate some of the content, um, analyzing the data. But generative AI tends to be this. It's like a friend who doesn't want to upset you. It's kind of weird this because I use ChatGPT quite a lot, and ChatGPT knows it's remembered everything about Geospatial 2.0. But I will ask it a question about something, and it'll kind of agree with me. Oh, this is what we think it should be. Um, but I want to make you happy. So you have to be ever so cautious about how you use it, how you ask your questions, how you interpret things. There is no if you're tracking everything that people are looking at, like I suggest you do, all the titles, you need to look at those. Generative AI will give you some sense of what's working, but you need to look at those. What is your community really interested in? So it's an assistant. It's not the one that leads you down the path. I would also say, and I've asked it quite a few questions about the LinkedIn algorithm, it kind of understands it, but it kind of doesn't. I'll give you an example. I've noticed some of my talks will initially be disappointing. I'll get, maybe 400 or 500 people looking at it in the first couple of hours. According to generative AI, that's the end. If the algorithm doesn't like you in the first 2 hours, that post is a dead post. Wrong. Totally wrong. I track my posts over time. I don't just look at over the last week. I'll probably track it over 2 or 3 weeks. I've found that some of my posts have gone from 500 to 12,000 within 2 weeks. So it continues. There's a continued momentum. Some don't do that. And again, you should be tracking that. But some, again, like some of the more sticky talks that I do, they'll build followers over a long period of time. So be aware of that. The one thing I forgot to mention a little bit earlier is include a CTA in your posts. If you are looking for people to join your newsletter, tell them come and join the newsletter. I mean, and seriously, it's community. It's a community building exercise in my case. So I do want people to join. I mean, if you're not on the newsletter watching this, please sign up for it. It's a bi-weekly newsletter where I try and share everything that's new in the world of Geospatial 2.0. So anyway, there's my talk. A bit longer than I anticipated. Those are my 6 learning lessons. Try them out. Please give me feedback on what's working for you. In fact, if you're trying and failing or succeeding with LinkedIn in terms of what you're doing, let me know. How are you being successful? Why are you failing? I would really like to know. It will help me learn, and I'll share that with the community. So for this talk, thanks for watching. More to come.